Hello, this is Dr. Don White, and this tutorial video is the second of 4 which provides information about the IASA Senate Bill 7 Performance Rankings file. This video will provide information on how to transfer data from a previous year's file into the updated file. As a side note, if you'd like me to do this for you, you can send me an email to sb7@iasasurveys.org, and I'd be happy to help you with this process. The first step would be for you to email your previous year's file to me, and then I can transfer it and get that file or the updated file back to you. If you choose to transfer the data yourself, it's a pretty simple process, and that's what this tutorial is all about. You'll notice on my screen I happen to have on the left a sample file from the 23-24 school year, and on the right I have the updated file or the new file from the 24-25 school year. There's additional information in the 24-25 school year that will be very helpful for you to be successful in using this program. The first step we're going to do is click on the worksheet titled Enter District Info Here. I'll do that on both of the files. You'll notice on the left I have information because it's what you used from the previous year, and on the right there isn't any information in specific columns. We need to transfer that information over. So what I'm going to do is highlight the district schools, and as you can see this happens to be fictitious data. I hit Control-C on my keyboard and then I move to the new file. Now there's a couple ways to do this. I can go up to the clipboard and select Paste and then go to the Match Destination Formatting. That's extremely important because we don't want to copy any formulas that might be in the previous year's file. So we want to make sure we match the destination. Another way of doing this would be to go to the Paste Special, and then I get a new window that appears, and I want to select Text. Again, you can see down here where it says inserts the contents of the clipboard as text without any formatting. If we do that, we will be successful in not disrupting the formulas. If something happens, by the way, and it doesn't work as expected, I am more than happy to help. You just need to reach out to me at that email address. So I'm going to click OK, and the information is copied as text. Now I'm going to go to the position titles. You obviously may not have this many positions in your district, but I just happened to put a lot in just so we could see how it works. I hit Control-C on my keyboard. Now you'll notice that on the right-hand side, I'm in row 2 when I click on the first cell. It's really important that you hit it, or it's really important that you get to the right cell when you're trying to paste the information. So you'll notice that position 1 happens to be in cell C2, and that's what I'm in over on the new file. So I'm going to right-click. I'm going to go to the icon that says Match Destination Formatting, and the positions are put in place. Now the next column, where it says List of License Endorsements, there's a lot of information already populated for you. The only reason you would need to copy this is if you've added anything or altered any of this information in your previous year's file. So I'm going to skip that column. I'm going to skip the List of Content-Specific Endorsements, column G. I'm going to skip the list of qualifications. Maybe I didn't have any. If you have any, you'll want to make sure that you are pasting that information, as I've shown you how to do, in the right columns on the new file. You'll notice that as we get to the race column, or column K, the information's been updated in this file. And I provide a link for the Public Act, which provides the clarification you might need on why I made those changes. It has to do with changes that are happening in Illinois. If you prefer to have something else, you can copy and paste from the previous year's file into the race column. It's completely up to you. However, given that Illinois has changed its information, I needed to comply with that. And the last piece of information on this worksheet that I'm going to copy and paste happens to be the evaluators' names, which I'm highlighting on the left, and their IEIN numbers. So I make sure I highlight all of that data. By the way, you could go further if you choose to go further down. It's not going to hurt anything as long as you paste the values or paste the text and not any formulas. So I'm going to hit Control-C, go to the correct space on the new work or new file, and match destinations. So now I've got the first worksheet information done. The next step is to update the information on the second worksheet, which is called Lists Pivot Tables. I'm scrolling to the left here. I can go do that on my new worksheet. You'll notice that none of it is populated on the new file. So to do this, what I can do is go up to where it says Pivot Table Analyze. There's multiple ways to do this, but this is the way I prefer to do it. And then click the down arrow and refresh all. If I just click refresh, it may only update one of the reports in the file. I choose to refresh all. Once I do that, you'll notice that it populates then the positions. I have other information that's important for the program to work correctly. Now, if I go back to change anything on the first worksheet, the one called Interdistrict Info here, I will need to go through this process of refreshing again. So any changes to the first worksheet require me to update the pivot tables or the list pivot tables on worksheet 2. Otherwise, the information won't be available when we get to the third worksheet. Now, the next step is to transfer, which is probably the bulk of information you have in this file, into the third worksheet. So I'm going to go there in the previous year's file, and I'm going to start highlighting information. Now, there's a little tip here. If you're using the file from 23-24 to grab your information over to the new file, the 24-25, you need to make sure that you are aligning the columns. If you're using a previous year file, you still need to make sure that you're aligning the columns. However, it will look different because there are new columns in last year's file, the 23-24, and of course they still exist in the 24-25 year, and we have more room to add additional evaluations. So let me explain. Look at column A where it says part-time A1, part-time or full-time status. When I copy that information over, I need to make sure that I align it in column A over here so that I'm in the right space called part-time or full-time. It's the same for all of the other columns. Now, because I've worked with this file quite a bit, I know that all of the columns will match up to the end of the cycles or the rating cycles that we've entered into the program. So what I'm going to do is highlight all of that information. As I do that, I go to the right, if you maximize your screen, it will be a little easier as you do it, but I want to keep both of these files open on the screen as they are. So you'll notice that I'm now up to the ratings and the dates of the evaluation cycles. When I keep going to the right, the last one here happens to be 15. And then it gets to a column called column BY where it says, did the joint committee override? I need to stop here on column BX and go down as far as I have data. You can go past the bottom of your data. It doesn't hurt anything. And you may not have as much data in your program as I have in my sample file. But again, I wanted to make sure that I had a robust data set. You'll notice that I went down much further than I have data, which is just fine. I'm going to hit Control-C. Now that data is available to put in the new file. But it's the same process. I want to make sure I can right-click and go to the Match Destination Formatting. Yours might look a little different depending on your Excel version. Or I can go to Clipboard and go to Paste and then get to the same icon, or click the paste special. I'll just choose to click on the icon. Now notice what happens. It takes all of the data from the previous year, and I want to spot check to make sure that it looks like it put it in the right column. So as I do that, you notice the date looks fine, the teacher race is there, full-time equivalent, the other columns look good. And so now I'm going to start scrolling across and just spot checking to make sure that it looks right. And to me, it looks like the data has aligned correctly, or at least the data I have in there is aligned correctly. And I'm going to keep going till I get to the evaluations, and you'll notice that it stops. The highlighted part will stop at 15. And I'll explain why I stopped at 15. Cycle 15, that is. All right, so I get to 15, and you'll notice then that I've added in the new file a new cycle for evaluations. That's 16. That's why I couldn't keep going to the right in the old file. So my next step is to go to the right, and I'm going to grab the data from CA and then paste it into this new file. So I'm going to come back to the old file and highlight. It's a different column number because I've added some columns to this program, but this is the right information to grab so that I can get it into the new file. Now I'm just going to grab that information and go to the bottom of where I have data. Again, you can go further. And you'll notice that I do actually go down a little bit further, which is fine. And then I'm going to highlight to the right all the way through the evaluator's name. And I'm going to explain why I only go this far in just a second. So I've got that information highlighted. Control C on my keyboard. I come back to the correct cell. Remember CA2 because I started on row 2 in the old file. Now I'm going to right click and paste that as text. Now the reason I did not include, I'm going to maximize this so that you can see it now. The reason I did not go past the evaluator name is because I've programmed this file to automatically populate the teacher, or I'm sorry, the evaluator IEIN. That's done automatically. So this is a formula in behind the scenes. Okay, so that's important for you to realize that you can't, you don't want to corrupt the file or the formulas that are back there. Now I have all of the data into the program. The next step is to look at the data check, and you'll notice as I scroll down, you can see people that are no longer employed. I see a lot of green, which is what the data check should be. And as I scroll down, I'm looking for any red cells, which give me information on spots where I might be missing data. You'll notice that it looks pretty good, but I do come across one on 244. And it says missing data, the data status, and then it says, did the Joint Committee override the group placement for this employee? And you need to go to column BY, it says, and you can't see the rest of it, but it's worksheet 3. So you would come back here, go to 244 on the third worksheet, and go over to the column BY and add the information that's needed. And then this will turn green, assuming that I have the rest of the information that's needed for the program to work. And I would just go through the process of checking to make sure that I don't have anybody else missing any data. You see an NA, that means I probably have some data entry errors on row 485, so you need to go back and carefully check that information. And some more NAs, which means I'm still missing some information. Or another key to this is you need to use the drop-down arrows back on the worksheet titled 3 Enter Teacher Data here. What do I mean by that? There's specific information that has to be entered exactly the way that the program requires it. Example would be full dash time comes from the drop-down menu. I have part-time, of course, also. But I might be able to type in full time without the dash, the program will not properly work if that's the case. It's because of all the formulas that are in the background looking for specific data. Drop-down arrows in the spaces where they are available. A lot of this information comes from previous information that you've entered or information that I've provided for you. Example would be the joint override group. It says NA. We might have data in here that says N-A, and that's not going to work. We might also have an evaluator's name, which isn't selected from the drop-down. That's not going to work either. Again, you have to make sure that you're using these drop-downs for the program to work correctly. All right. So I've done the spot check. Now the next step would be to refresh all of the groups or all of the information in the program. So I go to the first Group 1 report, and I can type my district name in here. And as I do that, you'll notice that it starts to appear on all of the spaces or the reports. I did that in a way to minimize any data entry that you have to provide. And now I'm on the Group 1 report, and I need to refresh this. I need to refresh these reports anytime I make any changes in the data. So on any of the worksheets, by the way, 1 through 3. So I come back to Pivot Table Analyze, go to the top, and click Refresh All. Now it's going to refresh all of the reports. And now I can select only the information. I only want to look at currently employed, and this happens to be the Group 1 report, so I'm just going to select Group 1 report. And now I have the list of teachers that fall into Group 1. I would do the same thing for Group 2, only currently employed, and Group 2. You may not have anybody in Group 2. If that's the case, when I refresh and then I go to Group 2, I won't see Group 2 in the list of options. And in that case, I always select the empty box. Just it tells me that I didn't have anybody if I happen to look at this later. So Group 2, now we go to Group 3. Same thing. Final group. Group 3. Group 4, same thing. And now, if I choose to, I can filter this by current employees, the one called current or other eligible position list. It's easily done. Here's the one with teacher credentials I can filter and use at my leisure. Now, the important ones are the sequence of honorable dismissal list and the evaluations ratings list. So on the sequence of honorable dismissal, I want to say currently employed. And the position type I could change if I choose to. In this case, I'm just going to leave it like this because I would provide both. If you follow the program, I could use current and other eligible positions in the program if I choose to do that. And then I have the evaluations ratings list, which is currently employed. Again, you can filter by other variables if you choose to. That's provided in the program. And the last worksheet is the cycle report. That's who's on to be evaluated during this given year. And if you've used it, it's not a requirement for the program. It's an option. It's an additional enhancement that several people asked for. Now, here's the position type where I could say, I just want to look at their current position and then whether or not they are on or off of cycle. Now, in my data set, I'm not using it. But if I was using it, I would see on and off or something listed here that I could select OK for only those teachers that are on the cycle. All right, that's a lot of information. I hope it's been helpful on how to successfully use the IESA Senate Bill 7 Performance Rankings file. Thank you.